They also have ray traced reflections in play. There's actually different sort of implementation, I guess, different examples of it, of how it both works and doesn't work.
Right.
So, first of all, opaque and rough surfaces. Now, this is a bit tricky, right? Because obviously, depending on how you set the roughness cutoff on ray trace reflections, like a very rough surface showing a reflection takes more processing power to do than a perfectly mirror-like surface, right? And I feel like I'm suitably impressed with from what I can gauge in terms of how rough a material can be while still reflecting the surroundings. There are rough reflections in here. You pointed out a nice one around 136. If you look here, it's a very suitably rough reflection that actually looks really, really great. But I think we can also agree that they are still combining SSR in spots, and that combined with things like what we see on the water, the not amazing water denoiser, where it's just kind of a little bit noisy, not super clean. That does those two things kind of tip their hand as being not quite pristine, right?
Yeah.
But that stuff's good. But what really impressed me, Alex, and what I want you to sort of glaze them over, is the way they handle ray trace transparency reflections, because oh boy, these look amazing.
Yeah, this is actually a really cool aspect of it. I don't think it was really primarily obvious at all in any of the scenes of the trailer one. So this might have been something that came online that was purpose built for, since then. And it's really good in a game like this. You get transparency on glass surfaces, transparent plastics and stuff like that. Or, water also counts as one of these types of surfaces. And the reason why it's so good is because GTA takes place in a modern day city, which is full of glass. And the game has a very strong emphasis on cars, the name and all that. And having all those glass reflections is really cool. And I think one of the best examples of that is at 028 of the trailer.
Oh my God.
Jason's in the car. And there's so many Jason is in the car, and there's so many reflections in the shot. Like you can look at his sunglasses reflecting the environment around them. The dashboard is reflected in the windscreen of the car. The two side door what do you call them? Sorry, side door windows also have
side mirrors, the wing mirrors.
No, the enter and exit doors for the passenger and the driver. The windows there in the front, in the foreground, and the background are also reflecting. And then you have the reflections as well from the side mirrors and the rear view mirror. Yes. It's like, I mean, if you were to try to do this with anything other than ray tracing, it just wouldn't work. Because you'd have to re-render the entire world from the perspective of each of those surfaces. And that's why real-time ray tracing is phenomenal, because it just is like arbitrarily sampling things that are not in view. And this.
Can I just say real quick, Alex, this scene is so good, just that single shot, there's so much that you can read just from that shot. So obviously the reflection stuff, right? But not just the reflections themselves, but the way the materials work, the actual glass, the glass on the driver's side door window, right? Like it actually has like proper depth to it. It's not 100% transparent, right? There is a little bit of an opacity to it. And the reflections in a lot of games where they do RT reflections just have this, like, your eyes still see it and you're like, okay, that doesn't really look real. Like, yes, it's reflecting the world, but it doesn't look like real glass. This actually looks like proper glass. And on top of all that, like, look just around the car, right? Like the little shutter above that you put down for the sun visor, that perfect shadowing in there. Look at the perfect little shadows on his face by the sunglasses. You know, just the way everything is shaded, lit, the reflections, the lighting, everything streaming into the single shot right there, I think is just like a phenomenally impressive example of what the technology is buying us here, right?
Yeah, it's great. And I think one thing to really point out about these reflections is that they do seem to capture a lot of detail. One thing that's done primarily for console games is that they will heavily reduce the quality and dynamism of anything that can be reflected just to save on performance, because you have to update that constantly. And when at 0.28 24, I believe it's when Jason is walking back inside
Hmm.
his beach house hut, wherever he lives on the beachfront there. You can see him reflected in the window to the like front door of his house. And I think that's really cool because a lot of games actually avoid dynamic objects in their reflections
Hmm.
for the express purpose of saving on performance because it's pretty expensive. And another example that John called out earlier, the really good opaque reflection on the top of that like inner bar area. If you look at it, it's like the like very diffuse reflection where it's kind of like rough looking. You can actually see that it's reflecting a pool down below. And you can see the water on the pool moving even in that rough reflection. And usually stuff like that is not at all taking into account in a console game
Exactly.
specifically for the things like RT reflections, which are usually heavily simplified for the purpose of just keeping the game performant. But once again, we're looking at, something that is, like 80% pixels of 1440p and it's 30 FPS in a cutscene. We'll have to really see what this looks like when you're actually in the open world
Exactly.
proper still.
Yeah.
There's two other examples I wanted to highlight here that are tangentially related to this that really impressed me. So if you go to about 42 seconds in the trailer, he's walking out of this convenience store, right? And he's holding a 6-pack. And if you look at the beer sloshing around in there, combined with the way the lighting and everything plays off of it, and then again at 2:09 when it's just sitting there, there's like they really managed to capture the feeling of like liquid penetrating these like or light penetrating liquid filled glass bottles in a way that I don't feel like I've seen before. I don't know. What do you think about that, Oliver?
Oh,
You
I
see what
think
I'm
that's
talking
pretty
about?
cool. I'd marked
Like,
those details as well. There's that shot of the television with the glass bottles, and you can see the condensate on the glass bottles.
Yeah, it's
It's
very good.
only on the part of the
Exactly.
glass bottle with the cold liquid in it, right? So it's like these little
Exactly.
tiny details, and like you get that water sloshing around, that beer sloshing around. That's a really pleasant and cool little detail, and it just reminds you like of all of the incredible amounts of detail that went into like Red Dead Redemption 2 with the like horse muscle simulations and things like this that you never really think about.
Yeah.
But then you
The
look at
horse
it and it's
muscle.
like, wow, Rockstar is like on the top of their game and they're doing things that are so incredible. People would only really consider these for like the top tier of single player games, but they're doing them in this gigantic open world title that has so much in it. But yeah, I think that the RT reflections do look superb. There are some limitations, like their quality in terms of their aliasing, presentation, and ghosting is not always perfect. And then also at that shot at 24 seconds, I think you can see that the parts of the main character's body that are in shadow don't really have a good representation of like the GI coverage there. So it's
Right.
all in black, stuff like that, which we're used to seeing, frankly, in engines like Unreal. That's a common performance optimization there. Also at 216, I noticed those controllers on the table at 216.
Yes.
They don't appear to reflect their undersides, so I'm thinking maybe that's actually a screen space reflection there with the controller and also the kind of vase or cigarette burner thing or whatever. They're not reflecting their undersides there, so I suspect possibly that's SSR in that shot.
I think you're right.
And then also on larger bodies of water, I don't know, like there's that one shot that is clearly, I think, showing off RT when they're by the docks. But in some of the bigger showings that we've seen earlier in prior trailers, they did seem to have SSR artifacts. Maybe SSR was layered on top of the body of water in addition to RT reflections. Maybe the RT reflections weren't there at all. But I did note that in some of their materials in their press site, they are showing off shots of like rivers and streams and creeks that I think pretty clearly do have RT reflections. That character of them looks very much like RT reflections, not SSR reflections. So yeah, I definitely do think that there is quite a bit of use of RT reflections for large bodies of water, but maybe not 100%. It remains to be seen if it's 100% for like the vast open ocean or like gigantic wetlands areas or things like that. Maybe there's a bit more of a reliance on SSR in those areas.
And I think that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
Because RT reflections can only show what's actually captured in the BVH, and one way to save on memory, of course, is to limit what's in there, right? And there's often like certain effects, certain objects, things that can be omitted, right? And it's just faster to do it with SSR. And usually I think the combination can work out okay. I'm not a big fan of it on water though, so I
Yeah.
hope they don't
SSR
go
and
too
water
nuts
is
with
always
it,
the
'cause-
problem.
Exactly, right? Like that never looks. You always get like character shaped cutouts just like blocking the view. It's not great. I think we showed that in the Oblivion video we did together, Alex.
Oh, yeah,
with
we
the
did.
sword, where if you have the SSR layered in,
egregious.
it's awful. Nothing that bad we saw here yet, but we'll see.